Welcome to Arbitration Life. I am Janette, Brin.
And I'm Hana Doumal.
As you may already know or have heard us say before on the show, arbitration has gained increasing popularity as the preferred international dispute resolution mechanism. We often talk about the legal framework such as the New York Convention of 1958 and the UCITRAL Model Law on International Commercial Arbitration of 1985, which have facilitated the legal systems both internationally and nationally to become pro-arbitration. However, we tend to leave out the professionals and the roles they play in arbitration.
Yeah, and there are quite a few different roles in arbitration, which can be very rewarding in a number of ways. Among these roles are tribunal secretaries, experts, registrars like myself, and more generally legal counsel at arbitral institutions, in-house counsel, as well as counsel in private practice, and of course, arbitrators.
Today's guest is an independent arbitrator with over a decade of experience in international commercial disputes. A Canadian and Australian binational, he has acted as arbitrator, tribunal secretary, and counsel in over 50 international arbitrations. Prior to practicing independently, he was Chambers Director and Managing Counsel at Arbitration Chambers, where he worked on large international disputes with several of the world's leading arbitrators.
Yeah. Yes, and he has worked on matters under the rules of many of the leading commercial arbitral institutions, including the ICC, SIAC, HKIAC, LCIA, and ICDR, just to name a few. He sits as arbitrator and tribunal secretary in matters seated across Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and North America. He provides a wide breadth of experience, knowledge, and perspective from his work with tribunals, in private practice, and at arbitral institutions. He started his career at Torys LLP in Toronto and New York. Then he moved to Hong Kong to work at the ICC before joining Northrop Fulbright in Singapore. He later joined the arbitration chambers before becoming an independent arbitrator. He has been appointed by SIAC, HKIAC, and the ICC as sole arbitrator, and also by the DIFC-LCIA as co-arbitrator. He is admitted in the US, New York, and in Canada, Ontario since 2009, and he will very soon be admitted as a solicitor of England and Wales, pending admission to the role of solicitors. Currently based in Hong Kong and soon to be based in the Netherlands, please welcome Tim Robbins. Hi, Tim. Welcome to Arbitration Life.
Hi, Hana. Hi, Janette. Good to see you.
Same here.
So how are you, Tim? How's Hong Kong? I know you're moving to Rotterdam very soon.
Yes, coming into the last few months here. Hong Kong's great, as always, although we're approaching summer, which is always a difficult time with the increasing heat. But no, it's a wonderful time to be in Hong Kong, and yeah, just making the most of my time.
Amazing. Yeah, I don't miss the humidity. We have it a lot here, but I do miss Hong Kong very much.
Yes. Even though we've had some lockdown recently, it's still a very enjoyable place to be.
Absolutely. Great. So shall we get started?
Yeah.
Okay. So Tim, I want to ask you, how did you get started in international arbitration? Would you say that arbitration, that you choose arbitration, or that arbitration chose you?
I think it's quite clear in my case that I chose arbitration. Back in law school, in my first summer, my university has my Canadian university had a study center in the UK for an international business law program. And there was an arbitration course there, and I took that and found it very interesting. And so in my last year of law school, I participated in the Vismut in Vienna many years ago. And then when I got into private practice, I was between Toronto and New York, and it was the recession, and not by choice, but I ended up being in M&A and in securities and various transactional work, which was not what I had planned, but it just kind of how things happen in the pandemic. I then, after a few years of being a corporate lawyer, I thought, it's now or never. You either change directions or you hold your peace. And so I applied, I think, to 50 or 60 jobs in Europe, didn't get anything, and then made my way into the internship circuit. and then networked everywhere I could in London and Paris, and then eventually got a job at the ICC in Hong Kong. And then, the rest, the last 11 years I've been in Asia. So I think, yes, I think it's definitely a case of I chose arbitration and I chased it down until it accepted me.
I love it. That's a great story. And I think it's so true for so many people, like the reality of applying to so many jobs until you get that one job.
Yeah.
It is difficult. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No.
I was going to say, yeah, for those of us who aren't in cities. So I was in Toronto when this occurred, and there's not a ton of international arbitration that's going on. I think it's getting better. It's definitely getting bigger as a seat. But for those of us that don't get into a big firm that has an arbitration practice, it's really difficult to come in from the outside, but not impossible, as we've demonstrated, Hannah.
Absolutely.
So Tim, you are the former director and managing counsel of arbitration chambers. Could you please tell us about this experience?
Yes. So an amazing and unique experience. As you probably know, and perhaps some of the viewers will know, arbitration chambers is a chambers of fully independent arbitrators who focus solely on work as arbitrator. And so I had quite a unique role. It was half tribunal secretary and assisting arbitrators on their matters, and half kind of CEO of chambers, as it opened. It started in Hong Kong and then opened in London when I joined, and then further in New York a couple of years later. And so the opportunity to work with some of the leading arbitrators in the arbitration community in the world was invaluable. And while my passion lies with the substance of arbitration itself, being able to have that role of kind of running an international business was in its own way incredibly invaluable. Just soft skills and knowledge that you gain along the way, I think will definitely benefit me no matter what it is I do down the road. Even as an arbitrator, I'm running my own business at this point, which is far simpler than running chambers. I can say that, but it was a fantastic experience. And Gavin Denton, who's the head of chambers, great arbitrator, he it was a pleasure to kind of be brought on and be trusted with his baby, this organization that has grown into what it is today.
Wow, that's wonderful. And now, Tim, you have acted as arbitrator, tribunal secretary, and counsel in over 50 international arbitrations. Could you please tell us more about your role as tribunal secretary?
Yes. So tribunal secretary is, in my opinion, perhaps I'm a little biased since I have a lot of experience in that, it's invaluable training for being an international arbitrator. You essentially, when you're working as counsel, and my work at the ICC as case manager and in private practice as counsel were invaluable. But when you're working with the tribunal, you're out of the trenches and you view matters in a very different way than if you're acting as counsel. The first time you see the submissions from the parties, they're in final form, and you see the cases that they're presenting, and you take the same approach that the tribunal does. You have to see where the weaknesses are. You have to take the case with a grain of salt. You have to kind of analyze how the issues play out. What are the priorities? Where are the gaps in evidence? And so the benefit of being tribunal secretary is for someone with less experience. You get to watch the tribunal do their job from behind the scenes. So you're in there for deliberations. You watch behind the scenes as they deal with even procedural issues and procedural decisions, interim applications. It's invaluable. And so that experience alone. And so as tribunal secretary, you get to play arbitrator, and you might be doing some of the less glamorous stuff on occasion, drafting the procedural histories, looking through transcripts and whatnot. But a lot of the work I still found to be extremely engaging. And as I said, just such a great path towards becoming an arbitrator and once you get that experience.
Wow, and it's all the more impressive that you were doing tribunal secretary, acting as tribunal secretary, and you were director of the chambers at the same time. So you must have been so busy. I mean, I know because I was in Hong Kong when you were doing it, and yes. I know how busy you were, but this is all the most impressive.
Yeah, well, there were some busy times, and it became that much more challenging, of course, when COVID hit. And of course, my hearings in London and New York and San Francisco would go ahead at those times. And the tribunal secretary, of course, would have to attend at whatever time is inconvenient for the tribunal secretary. But yeah, it's as I said, obviously I know many of my colleagues, including you, work exceptionally hard as well. So I think we wear it as a badge of honor when we have those times.
True.
Tim, can you share with us an experience that has been most impactful in your career or even you as a person?
It's kind of a little unrelated to law itself, but I think it helped kind of shape my view and my determination. So my undergraduate degree was in actually classical piano performance, so quite different. And coming from a small community outside of the big cities, when you're growing up as a musician, it's kind of actually a sheltered experience. When you work your way up and you get to, say, a provincial or state level competitions, the kids in the city are years ahead of you. They're playing things way above you. And so when I got to university and in my first year of doing my degree, there was a lot, I felt like I had a lot of catching up and proving to do for myself. And there's a national competition in Canada every year, the CMC, and they have a regional level, a provincial level, and then nationals. And so there's a grade you have to get past each round, and they whittle people down. And I barely made it through regionals. I barely made it through provincials. And nationals were 4 weeks away, and I'd not started learning the concerto that I was supposed to learn. And my professor said, it's up to you if you think 4 weeks is sufficient. And so I put my nose to the ground. I did everything I possibly could and flew to Quebec and competed and ended up winning my age category for nationals. And kind of the tragic thing was that I couldn't stay for the awards ceremony because I had to get back to work. And they called me a week later to let me know. But kind of what I learned through that, what I applied to other areas, whether it's law or sports or aspects of your life, no matter how intimidated you are by those that you're competing against or working against or whatnot, all you can do and should do is focus on yourself, work your hardest, and do your best, and that's all that can be expected for you. And sometimes you might surprise yourself, and your best will be more than enough.
Great lesson. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, it's so inspiring. Now, Tim, what is, in your view, the most fascinating thing about arbitration?
Well, obviously, I was fascinated from an early legal age since I pursued it so steadily. But what fascinates me and what drew me to it as well, I think, is just the diversity of each matter that I work on. You can have an identical contract and an identical breach, similar fact patterns, but you can have completely different results if you have a different governing law, different institutional rules, arbitrators and counsel from different countries. The entire process can be completely distinct. Even if the result is the same in the end, the how you get there will have been different. And so that's what I love and fascinates me about arbitration is just, I feel so privileged that the diversity and just the interest that each matter brings. Never do I get a case that comes across my desk that I think, oh yeah, no, I've seen this before, and know how this is going to go. It's definitely, that's kind of one of the things that drew me to arbitration. And as I said, I feel really lucky to work in a profession that is engaging and kind of different every time.
So true. It's so true. Like there's no, and you can't find two cases that are the same. It's impossible.
No. And quite often the same case ends up with different results, as we know, in different firms and whatnot. So that, it's a different kind of complicated, interesting, but yeah, that's as I said, that's one of the main reasons kind of that drew me to arbitration as well, just this interest. And maybe I'm jaded after my experience as a corporate lawyer. Apologies to all my corporate law friends, of course.
So Tim, what would you say motivates you?
Oh, it's money, same as everyone, right? Kidding, of course. No, I'm joking. And actually, in all seriousness, that's kind of the last thing that motivates me. I was recently speaking with a friend who was considering whether to take a new job, and he said he was talking to his mom about the job, and he says, Mom, everybody always talks about, picking happiness and passion over money. He said, I don't know anybody who does that except for Tim Robbins. Because and so as I mentioned, I feel very fortunate that I'm in a career that I find both challenging and that I'm passionate about and I find fulfilling. And without trying to, I guess, sound tacky or colloquial, I grew up on a dairy farm where literal hard work and doing your best and doing your job properly was valued. That was,
We just interviewed Sarah Vasani, and she grew up in a dairy farm too.
Sarah and I have chatted about this before as well. I think over drinks in London. Yeah. There's a few of us around. There's a few of us. I think she was just not too far south of the border for me. But so, kind of the same applies now. What motivates me is to be passionate about what I do, to prove to myself as well as to others that I have the skills and determination to do, the right job and the best job that I can. And also just to kind of continue to learn and to contribute to the field of arbitration. I've been teaching a lot at HKU. I helped teach the tribunal secretary training course here in Hong Kong. I've done it in Singapore and trying to organize seminars and research projects. That's kind of what motivates me as well. This kind of dual, doing the best that I can at work, but also finding a way to grow myself and to contribute back to the arbitration field.
Absolutely. And you will contribute, you'll be teaching also part of our tribunal secretary program at the end of May at the BVIAC. So we're very, very fortunate to have you. And it's such everything you said. I mean, and I felt in the sense that when I was in Hong Kong and I arrived, you were one of the first person I met. Then you were my mentor. You introduced me to everyone in arbitration, and you're definitely making an impact.
Right.
Oh, glad to hear. I remember our first lunch, so.
Me too.
All right.
So now, can we please ask you to share a pearl of wisdom, maybe a wise word or saying that you have treasured throughout your life?
Well, this kind of might relate somewhat to the lesson I conveyed about what I learned from my music career. So often in my life, I found myself comparing myself to others. It's my success is compared to other people's success. Not to blame my mother, but I do believe this comes back from my school days where, you come home with a 95% on your exam. And most parents would say, where's the other 5%? But my mother would invariably always say, who beat you? Because that seemed to be the priority. And so as a result, I think so often through my life, success has been measured against the success of other people. And quite often it can be intimidating and demoralizing, when you're trying to emulate what someone else is doing, but you feel that's either not within your skill set or it's unattainable. And so with time, I think I've come to accept and realize that everyone has their own path to success. You can draw inspiration from others, but ultimately your success and your journey will be your own. And I think that has actually really helped me, particularly as I've gone out as an independent arbitrator these last couple of years. I think just reminding myself of that, when I compare myself to, some of the gods of arbitration and whatnot, I think I will never get there. I will never be that. I need to remember that my path and my journey to success will be my own. I do have to sometimes, keep reminding myself on a regular basis, but I'm getting better at it with age and practice.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes as human beings, we tend to be hard on ourselves. So we have to keep reminding ourselves that same point. Yeah.
And how the uniqueness of your path is important. Like there's no other person I know who has a similar experience as you do, which is extremely rare.
Your story is your story.
Yes, I've dabbled in kind of every branch of arbitration practice that one can.
You haven't.
I feel richer for it. I do. I feel so lucky to have had the institutional experience, the private practice, having the corporate law experience and working in-house on secondment as well. It's all been great experience for kind of just building this more well-rounded, set of skills and knowledge that I still use and apply in my practice today.
Yeah, and working so closely with one of the best arbitrators in the world, it makes you definitely a successful person. You are a successful lawyer, Tim.
Oh, well, bless you, Hannah. Thank you.
So Tim, reflecting on your career in law, what would be 3 words to best describe your journey?
I hate these questions.
You're welcome.
Try again.
Try again.
If at first you don't succeed, try again. And you know what, it's funny because when I was younger, and I speak to, now I'm kind of on the opposite foot, because when I was young, I reached out to so many people and all that. And I give this advice to people that reach out to me to advise now. I had a lot of dead ends trying to break into arbitration. As I said, in a recession, as a foreigner with no experience, applying to 50 jobs in Paris and London, applying multiple times at institutions and not getting those jobs at the outset. There's a lot of dead ends, but again, where there's a will, there's a way. And I think that if you're flexible enough and you're willing to think outside the box, and if you're willing to take no for an answer and not let that be the end of it. I think maybe I'm too Canadian and too polite, and I do take no for an answer, but in the end, I'll find a way to ask the same question in a different way and get the answer that I want.
Yeah, as you should, absolutely. But thank you for keeping it real, because now we talk about like careers in arbitration, but it's also good to show young lawyers that you need to persevere and to be resilient, that it's a very competitive career, but you can make it, but that would not be easy, but it's worth it.
It is worth it. As I said, I'm biased now. It's all I've been doing for the last, 12 plus years. Is a pure arbitration. So, and in that respect, I'm lucky as well. But it came with sacrifice, and it came with a lot of hard work and a lot of flexibility. When I was sitting in Toronto blasting firms in London and Paris, I did not envision that I'd spend half my adult life in Asia practicing arbitration out here. But so grateful that I did. The personal connections, the professional connections, and the experience I've had, definitely invaluable, and wouldn't trade it for anything.
And it's so exciting that now you'll be in Europe.
Yes, the next chapter. So I'm going to try to the best that I can to straddle the entire continents. But yes, it'll be really great to be in Europe, to be closer to London and Paris, Switzerland, Stockholm, closer to you as well. It's a much easier journey than it is from here. So no, really looking forward to the next step. And but obviously, Asia will be where I built, most of my career to date, and it will always be important. And I'll be back to Hong Kong as soon as they'll let me come in without hotel quarantine. I've done enough. I've done enough hotel quarantine.
We can't wait to go to Hong Kong. I hope.
I know. I can't wait.
Later this year, next year.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're winding. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say the latest ICA in 2 years, but no, hopefully arbitration week before then.
Oh. Okay. All right. So Tim, I was going to say we're winding down, but before we let you go, talking about your journey so far, you're getting ready for your next chapter. We need to know, what is your theme song? What gets you through the day?
Oh, my theme song. Many favorite songs, but the one that came to mind, Muse is one of my favorite bands. And they did a song for the 2012 London Olympics called Survive. And I think it ties in nicely with my try again. It's very much kind of builds to a crescendo of I will survive. And so yes, if I'm feeling low and I'm feeling down, put on some Muse and get my head back in the game.
Great, I got it. I could picture you now walking into the hearing room like.
I have to listen to this one. I haven't listened to music in a while, so curious.
Take it back. It's very motivating music.
Great.
All right. Thank you so much, Tim. It has been indeed a pleasure getting to know more about you and your awesome career and journey.
Yeah, it's so good to see you, Tim. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. It's all mine, and I look forward to seeing you in person before too long.
Yes, the invitation is there.
Yeah.
Come
Perfect.
Yeah.
Come to Rotterdam.
Definitely.
Yes,
Sounds
we'll
good.
do that.
Thank you so much, Tim. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Take care.
Thank you so much to my friend and mentor, Tim Robbins, for being with us today.
Now, for more Arbitration Life, be sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Arbitration Life.